So I'm taking a break from Larry. Yeah, I'm taking a break. Taking a break from Larry's piece of junk, El Camino, to doctor up my, actually it's new Harbor Freight brake. I did actually buy it new, and I assembled it and left it sit outside like a jerk. So it's a little discolored, but it is kind of flimsy. I see what they say about that. So I'll stiffen up the legs and the gussets on the side like everybody recommends. And then also the gussets on the back side, because these guides are actually seem to bow in and out. So if you put 2 bolts in it, it should hold it straight. And I don't like this. Every brake I've ever used, you pull it forward to close it. So I'm gonna figure out how to turn that around. This is a piece I originally bent up a couple of months back. It's 18 gauge. I did manage to bend it. This is for another project that maybe someday you'll see. But it seemed to come out okay. It worked okay, but I'm just going to go ahead and do the modifications. They say make it better, because why not? Okay, so I got these loose, and they are 3/4 inch. Takes a 3/4 inch socket. And for those of you maybe in Europe listening, that would be a 3/4 inch socket. And this one here seems to take a 22. See, we have to have both systems in the United States. We're really screwed up.
That guy's an idiot.
So they say this will bend here if you're really putting some force into making your bend. In fact, I don't see how it'll twist. I mean, it's C channel on top of a C channel, so I see why they left a gap. But I gotta scrap a 1/4 inch steel here. I think I can cut 2 pieces out of that and fill that gap and weld it in. Well, now I'm starting to see why they say this bends, because this is not even welded in here. I could get my fingernail in there. I thought this piece would be welded to that. So it'll torque this up somewhat. So that's why we weld a piece in here and complete the web. All right. I found 2 pieces of box tubing that look about the right size, right length. So they're pretty thick too. I think that one on that side, which is the working side, I'll weld that on the outside, and this one I'll weld on the inside. I see everybody makes a step out there. I figure I'll just weld that on the outside. That'll give me a little more leverage for a step. But to save space, this thing's going to be wide enough and taking up floor space anyway. So I'll weld this on the inside, because it's going to want to tilt towards you when you're pushing the brake handle up. So the step will help. Another modification I'm going to do is take out this little welded guide thing in here, because I saw one guy, he ground that off because he was able to get a 90-degree bend to a 90-degree bend by putting it through that gap. So he could at least do a partial box. And then on the other side, he did the same thing, and they could do like a 3-sided box. Couldn't do the 4th side unless he would cut slots in the hold down, but at least you could do that. And besides, there's supposed to be a guide to this thing. Some guide, huh? Well, so far I got these two bars welded on in the bottom for the step. I turned the handles around and got these gussets welded on, welded them the whole way around to make sure that this top part wouldn't bend. And I put these handles on for extra leverage. That was an old weight bar I found, and I just cut that up, cut that in half. Now it's good bit more leverage. Let's see, what I didn't do is these angles on the back. Not really sure what the issue is with that. People say there's an issue. I guess they figure this heavy piece of steel or iron, whatever it is, might yeah, I'm not quite sure about that. I'm just going to use it for now. But in the front here, a lot of people put this shelf on to give it extra, they call it extra leverage. I'm not so sure you need all that extra leverage further out, but what it will do is support this bar from bowing out. It seems like when you have a heavy piece of metal in there and pull this, it tends to want to bend this piece out. And if you look close, you can see that gap. And I can actually push on this thing and close that gap up, which tells me it's not very sturdy this way. So that shelf will make it sturdier this way. Keep it from bowing in and out. You know, an angle bracket. But it's going to get in the way when you need to make a double 90 within half an inch. So what I was thinking is, on the back, from the factory, they have this, I don't know, I guess that's supposed to be an anti-bow piece, but it would make more sense to have an L bracket in the back. I think an L bracket would be stronger than that, welded the whole way across. So it doesn't get in the way up here when you want to do short bends. But in the back, it would have to drop down below this part of the I or the C channel. So I might look into that at some point, because I just don't think this support piece is really, in fact, anything. If you think about that, it would bow it. Tightening that thing up would bow it outward. Oh well, just thoughts. But I'm done with it for today, because I really need to get back to Larry's back window, and that's going to be some real close bends. So I'm going to use it the way it is, see how that comes out. I have this real thin strip of 18 gauge. I'm going to try to put a bend in it just to make it flat and rigid while I work with it. I don't even really need to bend, I'm just going to cut it off anyway. But we'll see how that works. So you can see it's not very much. It's just a real thin strip, and there's not much on either side of it, but I got it clamped down. I'm going to see what I can do here. That'll work. It just needs to be straight on the edge, because I'm going to weld that on and then cut it off. So I bent this piece up for the back window of the El Camino, and I'm pretty disappointed with the product. Partly my own fault, I guess, but I think it was definitely part of the break. So on this end, which I used this end of the brake, And this end has softer bends, a bigger radius that I really don't like. So the radius changed from the end out into the middle. But it definitely needed stiffening up, so I kind of lied. I said that I didn't have a piece of angle iron, but I did have a piece just sitting right over there by the press. That's what happens when you got 30 years of junk in your garage and you're not sure what you have. So anyway, I cut that to fit. The holes were already pre-drilled in the angle, so I just drilled and tapped it in there. And now when I push on this thing, that gap does not really change down in here. So it stiffens it up from moving this way. I'm not so worried about the leverage, and really it's going to get in the way when I try to do those tight bends. So I have to slot these holes and make it drop down at least a half to 3/4 of an inch to get it out of the way. But the whole point of it is still to stiffen that thing from bowing in and out. Because when I started to do the bend, I could even see this bulging while that side over there was making a nice crisp bend. I also think there's a problem with this not holding, and I think it's that this brace on the back. It only looks like, I don't know, 16 gauge, and it really ought to be heavier angle. Keep that from moving. I might try to get another piece of angle and replace that. Okay, I've done a couple test bends on this rusty piece of 18 gauge. One thing I noticed was this was completely loose, and I tightened that up, and it actually did seem to take up the gap that was in the middle. I was a little surprised with that. I didn't think this thin piece would have enough influence to move that, but it did. Also tried to tighten this one. Don't know if that made any difference. So let's see if this bends any better. See, immediately you can see that gap get wider. It's bending it. And it's really easy to lift with these handles. Well, it looks relatively consistent from end to end. So I'm going to continue on with my project and the good metal for the back window. So to conclude this video, the changes that I made this thing a lot easier to work with. Didn't change it a whole lot, but it got better. The problem that I had with the one piece, the longer piece that I bent, and it didn't have a constant bend on both sides, I believe that was more adjustment in and out here with this top part, and also this adjuster here was loose from the factory, and once I tightened that up, subsequent bends that I made came out really crisp. I'm not going to paint it. I'm not going to put wheels on it. It's just a tool for in the shop. It's good enough for me. So next week, hopefully I'm back to the regular projects. See ya.